Hello and welcome. Today I'll be sharing with you more information I received from Source during my last QHHT Hypnosis session. I'll be reading, as always, from the transcript of the session, and when I refer to Lorrayne, I'm speaking to my practitioner who's asking questions I prepared in advance of the session, unless she has her own questions, which are always great. And when I refer to me, I'm speaking of myself under hypnosis, which means the answers are coming from Source in this case. All right, I'll start reading here. Lorrayne. Okay, first question. What is the point of having this conscious awareness, the point of knowing we are Source? We are still here because we find this conscious knowledge project so fascinating at higher self level. But what is the benefit at game level? I'll pause here if you have any comments. Me. No, please read the entire question because there are nuances that are of interest and that I would like to comment on. But I will make a premise though. Clea, it may appear as she's complaining in this question, quote unquote. We'll use this term just for clarity. She's not complaining. She's speaking about the emotions that we have had to deal with. But this is not where this was coming from. She's trying to understand exactly how, if you want to think of it that way, how this project is working. How exactly? What is the benefit? So it's more of an impartial question or an unemotional question about, okay, what difference is this really making? And is this difference worthwhile? So yes, please do read the question in its entirety and I will comment. Lorrayne. Okay, I actually see it as Clea's trying to clarify and less to emotionalize. Okay. So what is the point of having this conscious awareness, the point of knowing we are Source? We are still here because we find this conscious knowledge project so fascinating at higher self level. But what is the benefit at game level? That from now on, the NPC will retain the ability to remember in future incarnations and always wake up. I enjoyed being an atheist and wouldn't mind spending lifetimes doing it again. Waking up in each future lifetime just seems like less freedom of choice, and awakening can be very painful. Is it the fact that the higher self is finally allowed to pass this new knowledge to the NPC and watch the NPC integrate this information? But what's the big deal since this is just a new rule in the game? Why does the state of the NPC even matter? We've introduced other rules in the game before without all this ado. Just change the reality and voila. This knowledge might have made us calmer in regards to certain developments here, but it's also caused lots of distress in other ways. And had we not brought in this knowledge, we would have not come up with the idea of this new project and would already be on the earth by now. Our brothers and sisters were no more emotionally ready to leave than we are now, but they still left as planned because we had agreed to a timeline. So they're dealing with the emotions on their own now without holding anybody else back because of any personal resistance they may have. Even though this means that they're not getting the help we could have given them had we gone to New Earth as planned. Just like us here, they're also having a harder time than necessary because we changed our minds about leaving. As for us, it seems they were still here because now we're supposed to be dealing with our emotions before leaving, which is not what we were told when we stayed here past the takedown. I understood that once the information had been integrated, which happened in April of 2023, the recall would happen, but that things change again. And now we all have to stop putting up resistance and consciously realize that we know what we know, which means waiting for the last aspect to be emotionally okay with this new awareness. So what does this lack of resistance look like? Do we just have to completely stop playing the game? I thought we were keeping the veil in place, so the game still looks real since we cannot handle the whole truth right now. And how come it matters how the NPC is resisting, since you said it's the energy that's not ready? And this is what shows up as our personalities having resistance about the takedown. Also, if that's the case, are we really in charge? What is this energy that is not being controlled by me, Source, even though it is me, because I don't want to control it? And if it is me, Source, that I'm not ready to leave, why am I not ready? And what does it take for me to become ready? And why am I hanging out here getting ready when our brothers and sisters left, even though they were not ready? And just so you know, guys, this is referring to last session we had with Source in October, where Source said that it's an energy. The energy is not there yet. And so it felt a little bit like almost a third party to me, even though I realized it's all one. And so I wanted to ask about this. All right, so here's the answer. Yeah, so this is actually, there is a lot that I like to comment on, but mainly the part about being an atheist, and also the fact that this is a new rule. And then, of course, the fact that Clea is wondering or is asking, how come our brothers and sisters stuck to the plan and dealt with the consequences of sticking to the plan? And we're all here all of a sudden and we're not okay to go because we don't feel like it. Well, they didn't feel like it either, and they still did it. So, of course, there is that sense of this is unfair. And it's unfair for everyone because now they're bearing the consequences of us not having left yet. And then there's the piece after that about the energy. So we'll just go very quickly here. The atheists. There are atheists on other planets. We've mentioned before that being an atheist is one of the most fun and entertaining ways to play this matrix game. Imagine that is the farthest thing from the truth of the matter. Imagine I myself as source decide that I do not believe in source. How fun is that? And source was laughing here. And so yes, Clea, just like every one of you, and we even recommend it for you, Lorrayne, recommend it to your consideration, of course, that you might consider at some point being an atheist, considering all the work you've done from a spiritual perspective. For example, in this last lifetime, because it is fun. It is just another way of playing the game. So this will be possible. And of course, Clea has enjoyed it. And the fact, when we say that from now on, the point of this is that we will have it at our fingertips, the remembrance that we are source. And why is that different? Because again, we have awakened. Before we brought in the information from the 25th, we have awakened many times. What do people think the word awakening means? It just means that you change your way of looking at the world, really, truly. Because even before you became a spiritual person, you became a monk, you became whatever, a guru, whatever that has looked like in this 3D reality. And what happened? You were still in the matrix. And again, there's absolutely no judgment about this. Doesn't mean you were less, but we still wanted to maintain the game intact. So yes, you awakened and you were just exactly where you were before, because we already said that many, 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 many times. There is no better or worse. So you just had a different understanding of things. You felt more spiritual. You felt calmer. You felt like you had a thread through this very confusing life, because this planet can and has been very dark. We know this, and very confusing because of this. And so many people have dealt with this by quote unquote awakening. We say quote unquote because you were never asleep. This is the experience I want to have as source. But also because in our judgment, again, because we've always judged everything, we even judge levels of degrees of spirituality, which is quite funny. And even in this, you awaken and you're still where you were before playing the game. So these awakened individuals who are still playing the game fully, I mean, you're going to be in 3D reality. That's why we are saying the consciousness we are experiencing right now has never been experienced within the matrix anywhere, not just on this planet, anywhere else before. And we're talking about eons. And this is why this is such a big deal. So when we say that in the future, quote unquote, future incarnations, you will have the ability to remember, and you will always remember, it does not mean, which is how Clea was interpreting it and what she was asking clarification on, does not mean that you're going to find yourself in a situation, in a painful, and that's the word she used, awakening can be painful, which has been our experience in this lifetime. Does not mean you will find yourself in a painful situation. You will instead find yourself in a situation where you have the acceptance and ingrained second nature, we called it earlier, second nature knowledge that, oh, this is how it is. I control everything. You will instead find yourself in a situation where you have the acceptance and ingrained second nature, we called it earlier, and this will be in the last video. Second nature knowledge that, oh, this is how it is. I control everything. And you will be able to use it to your advantage the way that we are starting to do now. We're using this to our advantage. So this is not a bad thing. Clea is thinking of this lifetime. We already know that awakening here, even when you awakened within matrix beliefs, a matrix set of beliefs, before we brought in information from the 25th, even we just thought of awakening as in, okay, I found this inner peace or whatever it is. It was painful here. It required detaching yourself or calling yourself out from an all-encompassing system that's been very dark here. So it has been painful. It's always meant that you have to give up things. And it could be a combination of things. Like, for example, financially, think of the saints, the martyrs, etc., and risking your life, your own survival, or giving up all your friends, your family to go somewhere and be a hermit, whatever that has looked like over the ages. And we've always put these people on a pedestal, meaning, oh, look how hard this is, and what a saintly person, right? Because we judge, of course. And of course, as we judge, we always judge other people as being better than us. This has been the game of separation we played, as if there are other people. This is not just me having a separate experience, separate, quote unquote, a different experience, we should say, so that I can experience all the things I'm experiencing. What I'm experiencing as Clea, plus what I'm experiencing as Lorrayne, plus what I'm experiencing as the other 2 billion people that were here. But let's get back to the question. So yes, it will not be painful. Clea again was asking clarification because she was looking at her life saying it's painful. What we are setting ourselves up for is painful, and it is actually less choice. It is a choice. We have made this choice. Now, if you decided in one lifetime, yes, I know how this works, but I don't want to be awake in terms of, I don't want to give up on my things, etc., etc. This is absolutely not what awakening, what that remembrance will look like. Remembrance will feel like, and we will describe it here because each and every one of you who are left here right now, which of course is just me, will recognize this because we have now integrated everything. So this is where we are. It will look like the knowledge, the certainty that you have right now. It will look like this is a game and this is who I am. Because of this, you will absolutely be able to enjoy 100-fold, 1,000-fold, whatever reality you're living in. It will not be painful. In fact, in general, we already said many times that on other planets, in higher vibrational planets, awakening never looked like it does here. You don't have to, like in Clea's case, for example, to bring up one example, you don't have to go through a painful divorce, cancer, and heartbreak, and challenging situations, and stress to get to finally understanding what you need to do, what you decided to do when you set yourself up to awaken. You don't have to be run over by a train, basically. It could just look like you're looking at a sunset and you're awakening. That's how simple it is. So Claire was wondering, is this going to be a bad thing now that we're going to be awakening, quote unquote, awakening, always in every future incarnation? But it isn't. This is going to be a wonderful setup, which does not diminish our freedom. If anything, it increases it. You will be able to change things for yourself, of course. And of course, without upsetting the game for anybody else. We said before, this is not our intention, but you will be able to change things to your pleasure in a way that we never allowed ourselves to do here. So that was about that, about the part about being an atheist. And again, they do have atheists on other planets. So of course, you might be an atheist and awaken in a second without going through the long process Clea's had to experience. She's not had to experience, but that's how the higher self finally found a way to get through to the mind of the NPC. In terms of, Clea is also asking, is also wondering, why all this hoopla about what we are doing when all we're doing is introducing a new rule within the game? We've introduced so many rules. The entire game is made up of rules. Again, doesn't mean rules as in they're 100%. We said there's always been people who have decided to play outside of the game. Like, for example, what comes to mind is when we hear about these people who are able to levitate. We don't allow that. We don't allow ourselves to fly and levitate. However, we're perfectly okay when we hear of somebody who's done it. That's because it's only one person. We're not hearing of an entire city or an entire country where people levitate, which would make us, of course, question the entire game. But we're perfectly okay knowing that there are people, individuals doing this, because we assume that they're different from us. Just like people will assume that people on New Earth have these powers because we're different from them. Within the matrix, we're going to have these separation ideas and these games. This is what keeps the game going. The idea that somebody else is different from me. So I know that they're doing this, but I cannot do it. So we introduce all these rules, absolutely. But this rule is not a rule. We have it available, but it's not going to be a rule for everyone that everybody's going to take advantage of because it's for us who decided to do this work consciously. And again, we're assuming a separation as if there is a group of us. But we have decided that in future incarnations, we'll take advantage of this. But this rule is not like other rules. Not a rule like, oh, on a 3D planet, we decided that metal is hard, that water is wet, that the sun comes up in the east. These are rules. This is how we set up the planet. Or that the rule is that our bodies, for example, on this planet start aging, and by the age of 70, 80, 90, they really look different from when you were a baby or a 20-year-old. And then eventually around 80, 90, 100, if you're lucky, that you die. This is a rule we decided here. That's not the same rule, even though we use the same NPC bodies on a lot of different planets. It's not the same rule we set up in other places where they don't experience aging. They assume it's because of the technology they have, and they live much longer. We already said the average lifespan in the Matrix is about 300 years. There are places where they live much longer than 300 years. So really, it's not the NPC that behaves this way. Is that we've decided that the rule in this particular board game is that this is how it works. And so this is not what we are talking about with this new rule that we've created. It's more than just a rule. This is an entire new way of playing within the Matrix, which is going to reverberate, of course, and it has reverberated. It is reverberating. It's already changed everything, as we mentioned before. In fact, I will just note that before we started, I was going to comment on the fact, because it's what you guys were discussing about some of the changes you're seeing in yourselves and the world around you, because of course the world around you changes as you change, that everything has changed. We have reshuffled things again, but we're going more into this as the questions come up. The bottom line is that this is not just another rule. This is something that is revolutionary. It is something that's extremely exciting for us. And we were explaining that Clea is actually realizing that it is exciting. And so when she says, oh, there is all this hoopla, it's because this is difficult from a 3D perspective, from an NPC perspective, to go through this realization, because it's so contrary to the purpose of why we set up the Matrix, which is to forget. But at the same time, this is going to add, it is adding, it has added already such a huge fun factor to the entire multiverse, to all the games going forward. So absolutely worth it. And then there was the part about, okay, what is the point? The way that this worked is that we didn't know we were going to stay past the takedown when we brought in information from the 25th prior to the takedown, about a year before the takedown. It was because we had, as I mentioned, we had decided that we wanted this information, et cetera, and already was super exciting. Not only was exciting for us to do this physical takedown, which has been a new way of doing it, but also that we found another opportunity to make it even more exciting, which is, hey, now we're going to actually find out and include this new rule. We didn't know. And of course, Clay is correct in this. We didn't know that this would lead us to decide to stay behind. In fact, we said this before. Many people at the time of the takedown were ready to go to New Earth. But then we decided, somebody came up with the idea of staying longer to actually do this project. And what is this project? To realize basically that we could have this consciousness on a 3D planet, which would then allow this awakening process to happen very quickly in the future. Now, why is this important? Because it's almost like when you are testing something new, testing a new system, and it takes a long time because you're figuring things out as you go. But then once the system is being road tested, to put it back together again, say it's almost like you're putting together a Lego construction set. The first time might take you 3 hours, but then you do it in the second, the third, the fourth time, which is basically every time we're going to be awakening in future incarnations, it's going to take you 2 minutes. You're going to go through the emotions very quickly. And of course, in a much higher vibrational environment as well, it's going to be super easy. You're just going to take it for granted. But it hasn't been that simple here because, again, it was the first time. And we were in a vibrational environment that was not conducive to anything being simple, to anything being easy. And because we have supported such a low vibration, that's what we wanted, everything is dense. It's much denser here than in other dimensions. So there have been a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles that we will not have to deal with again. So we decided, and again, Clay is correct about this, we would have not thought of doing this additional project, this overtime, as we've called it, had we not decided to bring in information from the 25th. And the reason Clea says it, thinks about it, and asks about it, is because she goes, oh, maybe it was better not to bring in information from the 25th. We're going to New Earth anyway, so we would have known anyway. But we decided it was worthwhile. And the truth is, it is worthwhile. It has been highly, highly worthwhile. Now, has it been painful to be here in this overtime? Yes, it has, because it has been challenging. It's still challenging in many ways, but a lot less than it used to be, because the consciousness is ingrained, as we termed it. And now we're seeing the upside of all of this. So what are we doing now? We are now experiencing some of the benefits that will come in the future, again, quote unquote future, when we get to reap the benefits of all of this. We'll be like superheroes, being able to have stuff go our way. Basically, there will be this extreme, this realization that we are one with our higher self. And of course, I am one. And not just saying it like we used to say it here, saying, oh, we are one, but I am. And this is huge. Imagine for one more second what we've gone through here to reach this level. Not this level, it's not like a degree of consciousness, this type of consciousness, we should say, and how easy it will be in the future. We can't even wrap our minds around something like this being that easy, that you're like, oh, yes. Oh, yes, that's it. I am one. What was I thinking? So yes, it's a huge worthwhile effort. Now, when Clea is asking about this energy, which of course is what I discussed in the last session, when I said the energy is not ready, truly, I have tried to explain this, but this energy is me. There is no separation. There is no me. There is no energy. There is no you. So when I say this energy, really, I am enjoying this new experience. And I'm not enjoying it at the cost of saying, well, since I'm enjoying it, because this is separation thinking, I'm enjoying it. And therefore, you NPC peons, and Source was laughing, you got to go along with it, whether you like it or not. I'm enjoying it. I'm experiencing this new thing, and I want to continue experiencing it. And I want, until we are ready, in the sense of we are done experiencing this and we have integrated everything, I have interest in staying here. That said, the resistance is gone. And so now the question that is in Clea's mind is, well then, why is there a veil? Because why not? We are the other end now, on the other side of this project, and we will talk about the recall in a moment. But we're already on the other side of this project. This project has been so wildly successful. And because we are on the other side, we already detached ourselves from the objective, from the goal that seems so, that we so desperately wanted, which was, oh, I can't wait for this recall so we can be done. We can be out of here. We are done with that sensation, those feelings. In fact, Clea had a dream that she took out from the list of questions because she understood its meaning, but we'll mention it. She had a dream where she was dealing with powerful people. It was the CEO of a company, and there were high-level managers at this dining table. But the CEO was interested in Clea and her sister. She had a sister there. And he was interested in them, even though they seemed to have no place at this table of business people, because in the dream, Clea was only 20 years old, but the CEO was interested. And the reason he was interested is because Clea had no agenda. And the message that was given in the dream was that when you have no agenda and you have no goal that you're after, you have the ultimate power because you don't want anything. And therefore, you are all powerful. There is nothing that you desire. Therefore, you are in a position of power. And we bring that up because it's exactly what we are dealing with. We are at the point, again, past the other end of the project. We are at the point where we are going with the flow. And you mentioned this emotion many times, Lorrayne, where we are okay with anything. And we know that you have thought of it as in, oh, I don't even know what to believe. Of course, you have no choice because you already know. So it's not a matter of believing. But you've asked yourself, in fact, you opened with this morning, I don't even know why we're doing this. And that's absolutely it. And you think of it as, because this doesn't matter, which is the same thing Clea thinks. She's like, none of this matters. Now we're moving on. I'm focusing on my 3D. None of this matters. It's something we did, we have done. But that's not actually the reason you're feeling this way. And you know it when you stop and think about it. You're feeling this way because you have integrated everything. And truly, things don't matter. Not because they're not real and it's not true what I've been telling you, but because it is so true that you're okay, whatever reality you are. This proves once again, not only that we have a rebalance, but that it really makes no difference because you are in charge. So it really makes no difference what you're experiencing. And that's why we're not in a hurry to move to New Earth. So again, this energy is not a separate entity. And of course, you can see it as it's reflecting how our emotions are. But really, truly, it's me. It's me. And this lack of separation, the pretend separation that we've even had between me as source and me playing as Clea, as Lorrayne inside the matrix, there is no more separation. So this feeling that I have that this is entertaining, this is a new experience, and not entertaining again at the expense of the NPC, but this is a new experience. And even I now, when I am in the NPC, I realize and I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm okay with this. Because you see, it has percolated. And this is how you know that there's been full integration. And again, the resistance has waned. And so for this reason, at this point, the way that we feel about it, and we've talked about this being a signal, so we still expect that it will happen, but we have no agenda with this recall anymore. This is not the thing that we were looking for because it's got to happen, or at least we know for a fact. And of course, we say Clea, we know for a fact that Clea was thinking of it this way. Like, again, something that you're running towards, trying to reach, almost like you're in the desert trying to find this oasis. There's this despair, this urgency. All of that has dissipated. And this is what we're dealing with right now at the energy level, meaning that so everyone is feeling this way, where the recall holds less, much less of an emotional attraction for us because we don't actually need it. We have said from the beginning that the recall was just a symbol. It was nothing that would change anything per se. We've already changed everything. There is nothing that can change one way or the other because of the recall as this third-party thing that's happening. So we don't even know at this point if we're going to bring it in. We believe we're still going to do this because, again, it's a signal for other planets as well. But the fact is, we already changed everything and it's already visible. It's already understandable. Again, the reason for doing the recall was more from a 3D perspective. It has to be something visible that makes people think at a 3D level or a 3D-like level. All other planets think of things the way we think of things, as in, this is real, it's concrete, it's material. I can wrap my mind around this. But the fact is, we already said many times, the energy of what we have done here has already percolated because I am one and I'm everywhere. And therefore, of course, my energy has percolated. So to specifically answer Clea's question, there's no separation with the energy. We are in charge. I am one. I decide all. And right now, I'm enjoying once again, even my experience at an individual level. And therefore, I will make this happen when I feel like it, when I'm done exploring some of the things that I'm exploring. Now, this comes to another thing where Clea says, and I think she also has it in one of her questions, where she says, well, but we're not experiencing anything new. But that's not actually true. And she knows this because it's not that what is new is out in the world, because we already said the world is not real. And we don't just mean it from a spiritual, esoteric perspective. The world for Lorrayne is very different from the world for Clea. So which world is real here? None of them are. Because for the 3.5 million people that are still on this planet, or for the 3.5 million NPCs that I still visit on this planet, each one is a different concept of the world. The world is different. Why? Because there is no outside world. So the question is, has your world changed? And of course, not only has changed, it has gone 180 degrees in the other direction. Now, I've already said that not everybody has been doing this work consciously. In fact, we have a question from Gil Chan asking how many of the people left here are doing this work consciously. So we'll get to that. But the ones that have done this work consciously, the world for them, because of course it's their internal reality, has changed 180 degrees. For the people that have not done this work consciously, not because they are less or more, because we're past this now. We're past this game of separation at this point because it's very boring. But for the incarnations, the NPCs that have not done this work consciously, they also have changed. Their life has also changed. They're also sharing in the peace that this knowledge, in the power that this knowledge has brought. They might not know why this is happening. They might not know why they feel a certain way, what is actually happening, the cause of whatever they're experiencing, but they're experiencing changes. And the way we explain it is because the world has changed, right? But no, we have changed. And so we'll wait, but just to finish answering Gail's question at this point, since we brought it up. But yeah, the people that are not doing this work consciously, they're preparing for retirement. They basically act in the game, right? But they're not fully part of the game as they were before. So yes, they will be working on retirement, just like Clea is working on retirement. She's not quite at that point yet, but she's thinking, you know, if I'm here for another 20 years, she likes to say, oh, for all I know, I'll be here for all my entire natural life. Now, we don't expect that. We don't expect that we'll stay this long. And for one simple reason, we already said we really don't want to see our loved ones pass. And of course, because the rules we like to keep in place here, if we wait too long, this will start to happen. So this will not happen. We'll not stay here this long. We said from the beginning, it wouldn't take 10 years. We wouldn't have stayed here. We do expect that, even as enjoyable as this is, because as you see, and we haven't spelled this out, but as you see, what you're experiencing, as you can probably deduct at this point, your experience right now is very similar to what you will have on New Earth in terms of, it's me. I can do everything. I can do whatever I want. I control reality. There is no reality outside of me. So this is what you're experiencing, a little bit of the feeling and the way of behaving that we will have on New Earth. And also, if you notice, we'll mention something else. We said many times on New Earth, even though we'll be all powerful, we're not going to interfere with other people's experiences. Even though we could knock down a planet, we are not going to do that. It's the same thing we're doing right now. I want to bring it up because some of the questions that Clea has in terms of what's happening here have to do with why are we letting certain things happen? They weren't even normal before. We're saying we're trying to keep the game similar to what it was before, but certain things don't have to happen all the time. It's not like bad stuff was happening all the time before. Like, for example, this Baltimore bridge and so much more boring stuff. And you know, that's what Clea says, so boring. But why are we letting this happen? Because we don't. Clea does not. And when we say Clea, we can replace it with any other name. We don't want to interfere with other people's reality. So just like we supported the dark because we wanted the reality to be a certain way, we now are supporting the keeping of this veil, the last shreds of this veil in place, because there are people that expect this and want this, not because it has to be there or because each one of us wants to experience it being here. Now, we have said each one of us does want to experience having NPCs around. We would have not stayed had the NPCs not been here. And even though we're fully aware that people are NPCs, we certainly don't want to see an apocalyptic situation on this planet before we leave, because then it wouldn't be fun. And again, right now, we are having fun. And again, this fun experience is percolating. It might look different from person to person, but everyone has experienced a higher number of highs, if you want to think of it that way, or peace, or whatever that looks like, going with the flow, not putting up as much resistance, not being in desperation, not being in sadness, and having to deal and realize everything that's happened here, et cetera, et cetera. So we have been doing a lot of the work. We already said we started doing some of the work that we will be doing on New Earth. But we're also experiencing, again, this very similar to what we'll do on New Earth, this knowledge of being powerful. And so because of all these things, we're going to enjoy this a bit longer. But yes, Clea has a question about this. Why then wouldn't it take 10, 20, 30 years? It won't, because we're kind of ready to go to New Earth at this point. We're like, well, we're doing this here. We might as well, you know, I've done it, and we might as well do it on New Earth. And we do have a question about this where Clea asked, because some of the dreams that she's had point in this direction. And so we'll wait to discuss those at the appropriate time. Well, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that you are experiencing some of these sensations, this going with the flow, or this not being in resistance as we used to be. Anything at this point is good because we went through a really tough period of boredom and frustration and all of that. So I want to thank you, as always, for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.